In a time when heroes were made with their fists and dreams were built inside smoke-filled arenas, one boy from the dusty fields of Maitland, New South Wales, rose up with a fire in his chest and a hunger the world had never seen. His name was Les Darcy, and once he laced up his gloves, the boxing world would never be the same. Les Darcy wasn't born into fame or fortune. He came from a place where the earth was rough, the people were tougher, and every scar told a story. Growing up near Maitland, young Les worked hard like every other kid, but inside, he carried something different, a restless spirit and a pair of hands that could shape his own destiny. At just 15 years old, he stepped into the ring for the first time as an amateur. No spotlight, no roar of a huge crowd, just him, a dream, and a pair of worn-out gloves. It didn't take long before everyone around him realized this boy was something special. His punches weren't just fast, they came from somewhere deeper, somewhere burning inside. It wasn't long before he turned professional, and once he did, there was no looking back. Les tore through his first 16 opponents like a man possessed, his fists telling the world he was ready for bigger battles. Then came Bob Whitelaw, the seasoned veteran with the Australian welterweight title hanging around his waist. Their first fight was a war. Les fought with every ounce of his heart, but the judges handed the decision to Whitelaw after 20 grueling rounds. Most kids would have folded. Most would have doubted themselves. Not Les. He came back smarter, meaner, and more determined. And in the rematch, he didn't leave it to the judges. Les crushed Whitelaw in just 5 rounds, knocking him cold and raising his own hand in victory. From the small-town scraps, Les graduated to the grand stage of Sydney Stadium at Rushcutters Bay. The crowds got bigger. The stakes got higher. Promoters, smelling money and excitement, began flying in top fighters from America to test this fiery young Australian. But Sydney wasn't all sunshine for Les. His first 2 fights there ended in bitter heartbreak. 2 losses, one on points and one by foul, both to an American named Fritz Holland. Some fighters would have been rattled. Some would have let those setbacks dim their fire. But not Les Darcy. Every bruise, every knockdown just built him stronger. The very next year, he found himself toe-to-toe with another American, Jeff Smith, for what many call the Australian World Middleweight title. It was a brutal fight. In the 5th round, Les took a nasty shot low and went to the referee, hoping for justice. Instead, heartbreak again. The referee thought Les was trying to quit and gave the fight to Smith. Another sting. Another reason for Les to come back, even hungrier. And come back he did. In the rematch, Smith landed a clear, illegal shot to Les's groin, and this time, justice swung Les's way. The victory was his. But more importantly, a new Les Darcy was born that night. A fighter who learned not just how to win, but how to overcome. Once he was crowned Australian World Middleweight Champion, Les went on a rampage like no other. He took on some of the best fighters America could send over. Eddie McGorty, Billy Murray, Jimmy Clabby, George Chip, George K.O. Brown, and Buck Krause. One by one, Les put them down, carving his name into history with every thudding punch. He even got sweet revenge against both Smith and Holland, knocking them out in brutal rematches that left no questions. Every man who stepped into the ring with Les Darcy came away knowing one thing. This wasn't just a tough kid with a big punch. Les fought like he had something bigger on the line, like every round was a fight for his very soul. He didn't just hurt his opponents, he broke their will. His heart, his engine, his refusal to back down. Those were the real weapons. And just when people thought they had seen everything he had to offer, Les Darcy did something few could believe. In 1916, he moved up in weight and knocked out Harold Hardwick to grab the Australian heavyweight title. A middleweight stepping up and flattening heavyweights. It was the stuff of legends. Les Darcy wasn't just a fighter. He was a force of nature, a kid from Maitland who refused to be ordinary, a young man who turned every setback into a comeback, and every punch into a piece of history. His story wasn't about belts or titles. It was about the unbreakable spirit of a boy who believed he was meant for something greater, and had the fists to prove it. At the height of his power, when Les Darcy could have ruled the boxing world with a smile and a crushing right hand, a storm was brewing, and it wasn't inside a ring. It was World War I. Australia was tearing itself apart over conscription, and somehow, This young man who only wanted to fight with his fists got pulled into battles of politics and pride. Les didn't want to be the center of a shouting match between men in suits. He wanted the roar of a crowd, the rattle of gloves on leather, the sweet sting of victory. So, with a heavy heart and a dream still burning in his chest, he left Australia and set sail for America, hoping to find peace in a new land, away from the noise. But fate can be a cruel matchmaker. In the land of opportunity, Les Darcy fell not to an opponent's punch, but to an unseen enemy. In May 1917, at just 21 years old, the boy who had fought giants and dreams alike was gone, taken by septicemia and complications from dental work, possibly from the very battles he had waged inside the ring, where every tooth lost was just another trophy of his bravery. When news of his death reached home, Australia didn't just mourn, it wept. His body, carefully embalmed, made the long journey back across the oceans. And as he returned, he was no longer just a boy from Maitland. He was a son of a nation. An estimated 500,000 people, farmers, laborers, mothers, children, stood along the streets to pay their respects. They didn't see a boxer. They saw a piece of themselves, a dreamer who had fought the good fight and paid the highest price. But sorrow wasn't finished with the Darcy family. 2 years later, tragedy struck again. Les's brother, Frank Darcy, a young man who shared Les's fire, his fighting spirit, and the same unstoppable drive, was taken too, struck down by the brutal influenza outbreak of 1919. He was laid to rest in the Catholic cemetery in East Maitland, not far from where he and Les had once dreamed of bigger days. The world would not forget Les Darcy. Time and again, his story was kept alive, not in dry history books, but through voices and music and stage. In 1950, his life became the heartbeat of radio dramas, where storytellers would breathe life back into his journey. In 1955, Australians gathered around their radios, hanging on every word of the life story of Les Darcy. In 1988, on the screen, a young Peter Phelps took on the role of the spirited boy who had once dared to challenge the world with nothing but a pair of fists and a whole lot of heart. And in 2001, something magical happened. Les Darcy's story leapt into an opera, The Flight of Les Darcy. But in a twist that somehow fit his life perfectly, Darcy wasn't a singer in the show. He was a dancer, silent but full of motion, full of life, just like the real Les, who had once used a violin to steady his mind and sharpen his spirit before fights. Even decades after his final bell, Les Darcy could still set a stage on fire without speaking a word. The boxing world made sure to etch his name where it belonged. In 1993, he was honored in the International Boxing Hall of Fame. In 1998, he took his rightful place in the World Boxing Hall of Fame. And in 2003, his homeland wrapped him in their arms once again when he entered the Australian National Boxing Hall of Fame. Les Darcy's story isn't just about a boy who could punch. It's about how one heart, burning bright enough, can light up a nation, even long after it stops beating. He fought for glory. He fought for pride. But most of all, Les Darcy fought for the simple, beautiful dream that somewhere out there, a boy from Maitland could rise up and touch the stars. And he did. Les Darcy's story is a reminder that greatness isn't just measured by trophies or titles. It's measured by how deeply a life can touch others. He lived fast, fought hard, and left the kind of mark no amount of time can wash away. He didn't just fight opponents. He fought doubt, fear, and fate itself. And in doing so, he became more than a champion. He became a legend that still walks with us, in the pride of a small town, in the spirit of every dreamer who refuses to quit. As the years roll on and the world keeps changing, the memory of Les Darcy stands still, young, fearless, and full of fire. The boy from Maitland who turned his fists into poetry, and his life into a song that Australia will sing forever. Because legends like Les Darcy don't fade. They live on, in every heart that dares to dream just a little bigger.